Hi, welcome to Chapter 4, Module 3, Market Demand. In the first segment, we will cover a visual approach, and in the second segment, we will cover a more empirical approach. In this segment, you will learn to distinguish between individual and market demand. You will also learn how to derive market demand when the individual demand for a lot of individuals is given. Finally, you will learn how to derive a market demand curve when the data are given. To distinguish between individual demand and market demand, we will first review individual demand. We again use our example for Coca-Cola. We start with a price of 50 cents. You can see the price on the left-hand panel of the slides. When the price is 50 cents, the individual demands 12 bottles of Coke. If the price increases to $1, the individual demands 7 bottles of Coke. And when the price is $1.50, the individual demands 4 bottles of Coke. And if the price would increase to $2, our individual would only demand 2 bottles of Coke. You can see the law of demand works here. Higher price leads to a lower quantity demanded. What changes when you analyze market demand? When you analyze market demand, you have to consider that a market consists of numerous demanders, rather than just one individual demander. Here, the market consists of 20 individuals. Real markets consist of thousands or even millions of individual demanders. This makes it difficult to analyze a market, because each demander has a very individual demand behavior. If the price is 50 cents, some demanders would demand a quantity of 2 bottles of Coke, some would demand 4, others 7, and so on. What happens if the price increases to $1? Here the price increased to $1. You can see this at the right panel of the slide. Consequently, the individual demanders reduced their demand for Coke. You can see that less individuals demand quantities of 12 or 7 bottles of Coke, and more individuals demand quantities of 2 or 4 bottles of Coke. It looks like the overall market demand decreased. You see the law of demand works for the market demand as well, given that it works for the individual demanders. A higher price would decrease the individual's demand and therefore the market demand. Here the price is $1.50. None of the individuals demands a quantity of 12 bottles anymore. Most individuals demand only 2 or 4 bottles. If the price increases further, demand will decrease further. At a price of $2, some individuals decide not to demand Coke at all. Most of the other demand quantities of 2 or 4 bottles of Coke. From the last slides, you got an idea how the market demand works for this particular market. You could see that the law of demand works for the market demand as well, because the market demand decreases when the price increased. Other than this, you could not get very precise information about the market. With all the individual demanders, it was just too confusing. It would be great if we could get the cumulative demand for the whole market. Economists call this the aggregate demand. The demand is measured for a group rather than for an individual, and you can see this on the following slides. Here you see the quantity demanded for the whole market if the price is 50 cents. It looks like the group as a whole voices out its demand. They aggregated their demanded quantities and then voiced them out. That is the reason we call the market demand aggregate demand. What if the price is $1? If the price increases to $1, each individual would demand less, and therefore the demanded quantity for the whole market would decrease too. If the price increases to $1.50, the quantity demanded will decrease even further. And if the price increases to $2, the quantity demanded by the group, or the market quantity demanded will drop again. You saw again that the law of demand works for the market demand too. An increasing price leads to a decreasing quantity demanded by the group. Now you can actually see how much the demanded market quantities are for given prices. On the next slides, you will calculate the demanded market quantities for different prices and develop a demand schedule for the complete market. Here you see the quantity demanded by all these different individuals if the price is 50 cents. You saw this slide already. Here I want you to find out what is the whole market's quantity demanded if the price is 50 cents. How can you figure this out? You just count the bottles of Coke demanded by each individual and add them up over all 20 individuals. Then you write the market demand down on a piece of paper, and then you go to the next slide and answer the quiz question. Here you see the market demand for $1. So if the price is $1, what is the quantity demanded? Please count the bottles for all the customers and fill in the number in the demand schedule on your piece of paper, and then answer the following question. Here is another problem. Now the price is $1.50. What is the quantity demanded for the whole market? Please write it down on a piece of paper and answer the following question. Here is the last task to complete the demand schedule. The price is now $2. Please find out what the demanded quantity for this price is, complete the demand schedule, and then answer the last question. Here on the left-hand side you see the completed demand schedule. What is missing is to derive the demand curve. You can use the program which is provided in the supplement section of chapter 4 to derive the demand curve for the market. On the following slide you can see how you use the program. After this demonstration, please download the program and try it yourself. This will not only help you to understand the material better, it will also help you to remember it better. What did you learn in this segment? You learned the difference between individual demand and market demand. You learned what aggregate demand means. You are now able to aggregate the demanded quantities from numerous individuals to the market demand. And finally, you learned how to derive a market demand curve from demand data.